The first time I realized hate could shift into something far more dangerous was the night Vincent looked at me like I was the only person left in the world. And that would have been almost bearable if it hadn't happened on the one day I least expected anyone to care. My birthday. The day I tried so hard to forget that even I barely whispered it to myself. But before I get there, before the rain and the streetlight and the impossible tenderness in his eyes, there was the beginning. And like all beginnings between us, it tasted like challenge, sparked like friction, and pressed itself into my bones with the unmistakable sting of someone who enjoyed watching me squirm. Tate. He would say my name like it was a dare, like I was the problem he was born to solve. And I matched him glare for glare, breath for breath. Every day we spent forced into the same orbit. Two people circling the same sun with opposite gravity. I told myself I hated him because it was easy, because it was safer, because hating someone meant you didn't have to examine why your pulse warmed when they walked into the room, why every word between you held a second meaning, why silence felt louder when they were near. But even then, I think part of me knew the truth. Hate was a shield, and shields exist only because something threatens the heart behind them. Vincent was that threat. He was charismatic without trying, the kind of guy who slipped through life like it parted for him. Tall, self-assured, the type of beauty that didn't lean on arrogance but still held power. Everyone liked him. Everyone except me. Or maybe everyone, including me, though I refused to let myself admit it. We shared the same internship at a tech startup downtown, a place full of bright screens and ideas that never slept. From day one, our supervisor paired us because apparently our competitive energy produced excellent results. And maybe it did, but it also produced tension sharp enough to cut glass. "You think too small, Tate," he said once without even looking up from his screen. "And you think too loud," I shot back. He finally glanced at me then, a grin tugging at the corner of his mouth. "Maybe that's why you hear me." I rolled my eyes. He laughed, and it infuriated me how much I liked that sound. Weeks went by. Our arguments became rhythms. Our silences became conversations. And slowly, imperceptibly, something in the way he looked at me shifted. Or maybe something in the way I looked at him shifted first. It was hard to tell when the enemy stopped being just the enemy. The turning point began on an ordinary morning. Rain pressed against the office windows while everyone buzzed around prepping for the monthly presentation. I hadn't slept the night before thanks to the anniversary of a memory I wished I could bury. Birthdays lost their meaning after enough years of celebrating them alone. So I locked the thought away and focused on work. Vincent walked in late, hair damp, jacket half unzipped. He spotted me instantly. His gaze lingered too long, like he was studying something he couldn't quite name. "Rough morning?" I asked, not sure why the concern slipped out. He shrugged. "Just rain. You?" "Fine." But he tilted his head slightly, like he knew I was lying, like he was listening for something inside the quiet I didn't show. We sat across from each other all day, exchanging ideas and complaints, sparks and sideways glances. And every time his knee brushed mine under the table, my brain short-circuited long enough for him to notice. By lunch, I was a mess of thoughts I didn't want to examine. By afternoon, I was tired enough to accidentally let my guard slip. When he tossed a sarcastic comment my way, I didn't answer with fire. I just looked at him, really looked at him. He blinked, thrown off balance. For once, he seemed unsure. What, he asked softly. "Nothing." But that wasn't true, and he knew it, and I think it scared us both. We wrapped up late. Everyone filed out. I stayed behind to finish a report, hoping routine would drain the thoughts buzzing in my head. The office was nearly dark when I finally shut my laptop. When I stepped outside, the rain had turned into a downpour that soaked through my jacket in seconds. "Perfect," I muttered. Then I saw him. Vincent stood under the building awning, leaning against the wall with his hands in his pockets like he had all the time in the world. His hair was damp again, his breath creating soft puffs in the cold air. "You waiting for someone?" I asked. "Yeah, you." My pulse stumbled. I tried not to show it. "Why?" He stepped out into the rain, like the storm meant nothing, like nothing mattered except the space between us. I opened my mouth to argue, but he shook his head. Come on, Tate. You really think I don't know what day it is? My breath caught. The world narrowed to the sound of rain hitting pavement. No one knows, I whispered. I know. He closed the distance between us slowly, as if giving me time to run. But I didn't run. Couldn't. His voice softened, turning careful in a way I had never heard before. You always pretend it doesn't matter, he said, but it does, and you shouldn't have to spend it alone. I felt something inside me tremble, something I spent years locking away, and when he smiled, that warm, breathtaking smile that reached his eyes, everything in me burned with a truth I couldn't deny. This was no enemy. This was someone who noticed even when I wanted to be invisible, someone who watched the cracks in my armor and chose to step closer instead of stepping back. He lifted a small box from his pocket. Not wrapped, not fancy, just real. I don't need you to like me, Tate, he murmured, but I want you to know I see you, even on the days you refuse to see yourself. My throat tightened. The rain blurred everything except him standing there soaked and sincere, waiting for me to take the smallest step forward. Why are you doing this? I asked. Because I care. The words hit harder than any rivalry, any argument, any glare we had ever exchanged. And for the first time, I couldn't hide. I opened the box with shaking fingers. Inside was a keychain shaped like a tiny lightning bolt, the symbol we always joked about when brainstorming ideas, the one thing we somehow agreed on without fighting. It's stupid, he said quickly, but it reminded me of you. It's not stupid. The silence between us deepened, thickened, softened. I realized then that somewhere along the line, the boy I once swore to hate had become the person whose attention felt like sunlight on skin gone too long in the cold. Vincent stepped closer until I could feel the warmth of him through the rain. When he spoke again, his voice trembled just enough to tell the truth. Happy birthday, Tate. And I broke. Not into pieces, into something new, something braver. I looked up at him, and the world, for the first time in a long while, felt less heavy. His smile carved itself into my memory with unbearable clarity. I will never forget that smile. Not tonight, not ever. The rain fell softer around us as the city lights blurred into gold. And in that moment, the boy who once despised me became the one thing I couldn't walk away from. And this is where the Rayall story begins. I did not understand how we ended up walking together through the rain that night, only that every step felt heavier with questions and lighter with something I tried not to name. Vincent did not try to talk at first. He simply walked beside me, close enough for our shoulders to almost brush beneath the dim streetlights. The rain softened to a steady drizzle, the kind that made the night feel gentler, quieter, as if the world itself was holding its breath for whatever would happen between us next. Where are we going? I finally asked. He shrugged. Nowhere in particular. I just figured you might not want to go home yet. I glanced at him. His hair clung slightly to his forehead, droplets catching the light. He looked warmer than he should have in the cold. Or maybe it was just me, noticing too much, feeling even more. Why would you think that? He hesitated. I have eyes, Tate, and maybe I pay attention more than you think. I stopped walking. The words hit deeper than they should have. Pay attention. No one ever used those words with me unless it was to remind me of my flaws. But his tone was different. Not sharp, not mocking, just honest. You shouldn't, I said before I could stop myself. Pay attention. To me. His eyebrows pulled together. I don't understand. Why not? Because it makes things complicated. A slow, almost rueful smile curved his lips. Tate, things between us have never been anything but complicated. He was right, and that terrified me. We walked another 2 blocks in silence. The streets were mostly empty, washed in the soft glow of neon signs reflecting off wet pavement. Something about the atmosphere made every emotion feel twice as loud. Vincent eventually turned down a narrow side street. A small cafe sat at the corner, its windows fogged and lights still on despite the late hour. I frowned. They are still open. He nodded. The owner keeps it open on rainy nights. Says people need a warm place more on days like this. He nudged the door open. Come on. I should have turned around. I should have said no. I should have protected myself. But I followed him inside anyway. The cafe smelled like cinnamon and coffee and something freshly baked. The warmth hit my skin instantly and made the chill melt away. Vincent shook out his jacket and ran a hand through his damp hair, making it stick up in a way that should not have looked as good as it did. We slid into a booth near the window. The rain blurred the outside world into watery streaks of yellow and blue. A soft jazz song hummed from old speakers. Vincent looked at me for a long moment, studying me with an expression I had never seen on him. Or maybe I had, but always convinced myself it meant something else. Are you okay? He asked gently. I'm fine. He leaned back, crossing his arms. You say that like you think it ends the conversation. Doesn't it? Not with me. I swallowed. Why do you care so much suddenly? His eyes softened. It isn't sudden. Maybe you didn't see it. Maybe I hid it too well. Or maybe I didn't know what it meant until recently. My breath hitched. I looked down at my hands to avoid the intensity of his gaze. The waiter came by. Vincent ordered 2 hot chocolates without asking me. I should have protested, but somehow it felt easier to let him choose. When the drinks arrived, steam curled from the cups, filling the air between us with a warmth that made it harder to keep my guard up. So he said quietly, are you going to tell me why today is so hard for you? I tensed. You already know it's my birthday. Isn't that enough? He shook his head. No, birthdays can be good things. Or at least neutral. Yours looked like something you were bracing yourself against. Like it hurt. I didn't answer. Not yet. You don't have to tell me, he added. But if you wanna, I want judge. I stared into the swirl of chocolate in my cup. Memories pressed against the edges of my mind like unwelcome ghosts. Childhood birthdays spent waiting for parents who forgot. Teenage years filled with quiet celebrations that never arrived. And the last one, the one that convinced me never to expect anything again. It's just another day, I said, forcing my voice steady. It always has been. No one really cared before, so I learned not to. When I glanced up, something in Vincent's expression cracked. Not pity. Never pity. Something deeper. Tate, he said softly. That shouldn't have been your normal. I shrugged, but my chest felt tight. You get used to things. You shouldn't have had to. The sincerity in his voice made my throat burn. I looked away, blinking too fast. He continued, quieter. I know we started off rough. I know I didn't make things easier. But I need you to know this one thing. I see you. Even when you don't want me to. Even when you think it doesn't matter. You matter. You really do. The words dropped into me like stones made of light, sinking deep, unsettling everything I thought I understood. Why do you keep saying stuff like that? I whispered. Because it's true. I stared at him, at the way his eyes held steady, at the gentle pull of his mouth, at the warmth in his posture. None of it felt like a lie. And that scared me more than any rivalry ever did. Vincent reached across the table, hesitated, then rested his hand palm up, waiting instead of assuming. An invitation, not a demand. I stared at his hand, at the soft droplets still clinging to his skin, at the silent question in the gesture. My fingers trembled. I did not take it, but I did not pull away either. He noticed. Of course he did. Hey, he whispered. You don't have to be afraid of me. I'm not afraid of you. Then what are you afraid of? I swallowed hard, the truth clawing its way upward. I'm afraid of what this means. He smiled gently. Then let's figure it out together. Before I could answer, the cafe door chimed. A group of late-night customers entered, laughing loudly and breaking whatever fragile moment we were suspended in. I exhaled shakily. Vincent seemed to understand. He didn't push. Instead, he took a sip of his drink and gave me a small smile, like he was telling me silently that the moment could wait, that he would wait. We stayed in that booth for nearly an hour, talking, not arguing, not challenging each other, talking about small things at first, then bigger things. He told me about the pressure he felt growing up as the oldest child, always expected to excel. I told him about how silence at home taught me to keep everything inside. We shared pieces of ourselves we never gave to anyone else. Sometime between stories, the rain eased into a mist. The warmth of the cafe wrapped around us like a blanket. And for reasons I still could not explain, I felt safer there with him than I had felt anywhere in years. When we stepped outside again, the air smelled clean, fresh, like the world had been washed for us. Vincent walked me toward the subway station. The streets were nearly empty, the city humming with the quiet of late hours. He kept close, but not too close, his presence steady and grounding. "Tate," he said suddenly. "Yeah, when I remembered your birthday today, it wasn't out of obligation or habit. It was because I wanted to do something for you. Something that mattered. Something you would remember." "You succeeded," I admitted quietly. He smiled at that. A real one. Soft and bright. "Good." We reached the top of the station stairs. I stopped, unsure how to say goodbye or if I even wanted to. Vincent rubbed the back of his neck, looking uncharacteristically uncertain. "So, can I ask something? What is it? Is today going to be the last time you let me in like this, or can we try again tomorrow?" My heart thudded painfully. "I don't know," I said honestly. "Okay, then let me ask it a different way." He stepped closer, close enough for his breath to warm the space between us, close enough for me to see the faint freckles at the bridge of his nose, close enough that running would be impossible. "Do you want tomorrow to be different than yesterday?" I inhaled sharply. I knew what he was really asking. Maybe he did not say it out loud, but the meaning lingered between us. "Do you want us to stop being enemies?" I opened my mouth, closed it. Memories of our arguments, our tension, our unspoken longing tangled inside me. Wanting him was dangerous, but wanting him was also the first honest thing I felt in years. "I think I do," I whispered. His expression softened so much it almost hurt to look at. "Then we start there." Before I could stop myself, I asked, "Why me, Vincent, why now?" He looked at me with an honesty that stripped every defense I had left. "Because somewhere along the way, you stopped being the person I argued with and started being the person I noticed first, even when I didn't want to, and the person I kept noticing after, and the person I couldn't ignore no matter how hard I tried." My breath caught. "I don't want to ignore you anymore," he whispered. And then he smiled, the smile that would haunt my memory for days to come, the one soft and warm and impossibly sincere. The one I knew I had already memorized. "Good night, Tate." He turned slowly, almost reluctantly, then walked away down the quiet street. I watched his silhouette dissolve into the glow of street lights until he disappeared around the corner. The night felt different then, like my heartbeat was learning a new rhythm, like something old had cracked open and something new had taken its place. And for the first time in years, my birthday did not feel like an empty space. It felt like a beginning. A terrifying one. A beautiful one. A beginning with him. The next morning felt unreal. I woke up to sunlight leaking through my curtains, warm and intrusive, like it was determined to drag me into the day whether I was ready or not. I lay still for a long moment, replaying every second of the night before. The rain, the cafe, his voice, his smile, the impossible gentleness in the way he looked at me. I had never been so aware of someone, even in their absence. At the office, everything looked the same. The hum of computers, the cluttered desks, the faint smell of burnt coffee. But I wasn't the same. Something inside me had been rewired overnight, and the world felt sharper because of it. Vincent wasn't there yet. I tried not to pay attention to that. I tried to convince myself it didn't matter. Yet every minute that passed made my pulse jump for reasons I refused to name. When he finally walked in, it was like the air shifted around him. Sunlight fell across him as if it had been waiting. His hair was dry this time, his jacket neatly folded over one arm, but his eyes found mine instantly, like they had been searching since the moment he stepped through the door. "Morning," he said softly. Simple, ordinary, but the way he said it made my chest tighten. "Morning." We stood there for a heartbeat too long, caught in the quiet of something fragile and new. Then someone called his name, pulling him away. He offered a small smile before turning, but even that small gesture felt like it carried weight. For most of the morning, we worked separately. I told myself I needed the distance to clear my head. But distance did nothing except make me replay things I shouldn't have replayed. The way his fingers hovered near mine in the cafe. The way he waited, patient and steady, letting me decide the pace. The way his voice cracked when he said he didn't want to ignore me anymore. Around noon, we found ourselves alone in the small break room. He was pouring coffee. I was pretending to look for tea I didn't actually want. The silence stretched, thick with unspoken questions. "Tate," he said quietly without turning around. "Yeah, last night. It wasn't a one-time thing." I froze. He turned to face me fully, leaning against the counter, hands wrapped loosely around his mug. His eyes were steady, honest. "I don't want you to think I said those things because it was your birthday or because you were having a rough day. I said them because they were true, and they're still true today." My heartbeat thundered in my ears. I swallowed hard. "I didn't think it was a one-time thing," I admitted. His eyebrows rose slightly. No. Something like relief softened his features. He hesitated, as though choosing every word carefully. "Then can I try something?" I blinked. "What do you mean?" He stepped closer but kept a respectful distance, his voice turning gentle, careful. "I want to see you again after work. Not as co-workers, not as rivals, just us." The air left my lungs in one slow exhale. I should have answered quickly, but a lifetime of caution made me pause. And then his voice shifted even softer. "Only if you want to." There it was. The choice he kept giving me. The freedom to walk away. The permission to say no. Maybe that was what made the yes rise inside me so easily. "Okay," I whispered. His smile grew, warm and genuine. "Thank you." We didn't speak much the rest of the day, but every glance we exchanged felt like a silent promise. Something building. Something real. When the workday finally ended, Vincent waited for me by the elevator. No teasing. No sarcastic smirk. Just quiet anticipation. "Ready?" he asked. I nodded. We walked out into the crisp evening air side by side. The city buzzed with life, but somehow it felt like we existed in our own small orbit. He didn't lead us anywhere specific. We just walked, weaving through the streets as if the movement alone mattered more than the destination. After a while, he slowed near a small park tucked between buildings. Lanterns glowed along the path, casting soft pools of light across the pavement. Children's laughter echoed faintly from the playground on the other side. Vincent stopped beneath a tree whose branches reached like open hands toward the sky. "I used to come here when I needed to think," he said, "or when I felt overwhelmed and didn't want anyone to know." I looked at him, surprised. "You?" He huffed a small laugh. "I know. Not exactly the image I put out, right?" "Not really." He sat on the low stone wall surrounding the tree and gestured for me to join him. I hesitated only a second before sitting beside him. The quiet settled around us in a way that felt soft, comfortable. "Tate, can I tell you something else?" he asked after a moment. "You can tell me anything," I said before thinking. His breath hitched. He turned to look at me fully, eyes dark and vulnerable. "I didn't despise you." I frowned. "You acted like you did." "I know, and I'm sorry. I think I pushed you away because I didn't understand why I was drawn to you so much. I wasn't ready to face it, or face myself." My pulse fluttered. The lamplight caught the edges of his expression, making every emotion in his eyes painfully clear. "What changed?" I whispered. "You did. Or maybe I did. Maybe I finally stopped fighting the truth." He shifted slightly closer, not touching, just letting the possibility hang between us. "The truth is, Tate, I like you. I care about you. And it scares the hell out of me. But it scares me more to think of going back to pretending that I don't." The world went quiet. Completely, impossibly quiet. I felt every breath, every heartbeat, every fraction of space between us. Vincent swallowed hard. If this is too much, tell me. If you need time, tell me. If you don't want this, I'll walk away right now. I shook my head slowly. No, don't walk away. He exhaled shakily. Then tell me what you want. I looked at him, at the raw honesty in his eyes, at the warmth I had memorized, at the boy who once challenged me now sitting here offering me something I never thought I deserved. I want you, I whispered. He froze. Tate, I want whatever this is. I want to try. I want you. His expression broke open like light through clouds. Relief. Hope. Something close to awe. He moved slowly, giving me every chance to stop him. When his hand hovered near mine, I turned my palm upward and let our fingers intertwine. His breath shuddered. Is this okay? He asked softly. Yeah. He squeezed my hand gently, like he was afraid I might disappear. We sat there for a long time, watching the lanterns sway in the breeze, fingers laced, hearts beating in a rhythm neither of us fully understood yet. But for once, I wasn't afraid of what came next. Vincent leaned his shoulder against mine, voice barely above a whisper. I'm really glad you were born, Tate. The words hit harder than they should have. Maybe because no one had ever said them to me. Maybe because they sounded different coming from him. Softer. Truer. I looked at him. At the boy I once labeled an enemy. At the boy who remembered what no one else did. At the boy whose smile became the turning point of my life. And with a steady breath, I whispered back the words I never thought I would say. I'm glad you were born too. His smile then was the one that never stopped echoing in my chest. The one I would never forget. The one that began everything.